Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Reuben, happy Thanksgiving.
You too, Dave.
Thankful for all the Eagle Eye listeners. We should start that off with today's podcast. But we have a lot to talk about. A big matchup in Baltimore, two of the best teams in the NFL. A really exciting game on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it's a fun matchup, and the two teams are a little bit mirror images of each other. The Ravens defense isn't the Ravens defense that we're used to, but they're still pretty good. Both teams have elite running backs, quarterbacks that can throw or run, beat you in a lot of different ways, good head coaches. So it's a fun game. I really believe both these teams are legit Super Bowl contenders, and it's going to be a fun matchup down there in Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. A little bit later, we'll talk about some matchups. We have about 1 million listener questions to get to at the end of the pod. So we'll try to get through as many of them as we can. It's Thanksgiving, so we're thankful for you guys. We want to read as many questions and answer them as best we can. But we start this podcast because the last time we were on the pod, we talked about possibilities and options for the Eagles at the edge rusher position. And then a few hours after the podcast, which is what always seems to happen, they claimed Charles Harris off of waivers. So he's the new addition. He'll join that rotation.
Yeah, and it was fortuitous timing. He was released, I guess, on Monday. And, you never know with a guy like this. He could come right in. I think edge is a position where you can probably come in and make an immediate impact. Or it could just not work out. You just never know with these type of things. He's bounced around the league a little bit. Pretty high draft pick. He was the Derek Barnett draft. Was he 7 picks after Barnett?
Yeah, he was 22.
22, yeah. And Barnett was
14.
So that would be 8 picks later.
You're close.
Yeah, I was still wrong. But you just don't know if it's a guy who's going to come in and make an immediate impact, or if he just can't pick things up, or he just doesn't have much left. I think he had 3 sacks this year. Had a high of 7.5 a few years ago. He's only got 19 career sacks, but you just want a guy who can, eat up some reps and give you some playing time. How quickly he gets to the point where he can be a contributor, it's just no way to know. You just don't know with these things. Maybe it's a bonus that he's bounced around to a bunch of teams, so he's used to learning new systems, new schemes. But if it's just as simple as go get the quarterback, it's probably something he can handle. It's just good timing that he was available. He's a veteran. He's a guy that's had some success. So it was a good pickup, and we'll see if it pays dividends.
Yeah, I think he's going to kind of fill that role of a pass rush specialist, like
I would think
passing down. Hey, pin your ears back, try to get after the quarterback. So he might fill the role of Bryce Huff more than Brandon Graham, who was like an early down run stuffing type of player. It's funny though with Charles Harris, it's like a full circle moment that he's here, because in 2017, I remember it was like, that was a big topic of discussion, is like, should the Eagles draft Derek Barnett or Charles Harris out of Mizzou? And then years later, they end up with Harris anyway.
Mizzou. It's like an old headline word. I guess he'd be the Eagles' first round pick from Missouri since Jeremy Maclin, I reckon. Yeah, and Barnett's probably had a better career, I guess, a little bit, but neither one really lived up to expectations, I guess it's fair to say. But yeah, you won't see him he's not a guy you want out there on first and second down. Kind of like Huff. BG, you want him out there every down. So that's fair. I think you'll see. I think you got to be careful how much you increase, especially Sweat snaps. I think Nolan can probably go up a little more than Sweat. Sweat's already playing more. But after last year, I think you really got to be careful with that. So, this guy, even if he doesn't make a huge impact, if he can just eat up some snaps and not hurt you and get a little pressure, then you'll take that.
Yeah. In Carolina this year, 9 games, 6 starts, 3 sacks, actually tied for the lead in Carolina with 3 sacks, 21 combined tackles, 7 quarterback hits, 4 tackles for loss. So he was like mildly productive on a not very good team. Yeah. Him and Teron Jackson were actually teammates in Carolina. So, the Eagles looked at that Carolina team and thought, we gotta bring those guys here. It makes sense. Like we talked about bringing up Teron Jackson, which they still might do. but you have a veteran who's played, and it's more of like a plug and play situation.
Yeah, and I like the fact that
it's not time for development.
Exactly. And I mean, there's guys on the street who, maybe were in a training camp and haven't been in a camp since then. It's tough to bring in a guy like that. What kind of shape is he? And this guy's been playing, and he's been playing a lot of snaps. I mean, what was he averaging down there? I think I read it probably in your story, like 25 to 30 snaps a game. So he's playing.
He played 420 defensive snaps this year in 9 games.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good number. And so you'd think he's in shape, and just send him out there for Sunday afternoon down in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think he'd play right away.
I would think
It'll be probably a limited package, but if his role is, hey, go try to get the quarterback, you can do that. There are some positions where it's a little easier to add late in the process, and there's some where it's really hard. Yeah. I think edge rusher is one you can add.
Yeah, I would think so. And I think Vic talked about that, didn't he?
I don't know if he mentioned edge rusher specifically, but he might have. Yeah, he just talked about like safety and linebacker, obviously hard.
Yeah. Yeah, they're more kind of scheme-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Edge rusher, just go get quarterback. So, yeah, they're fortunate to have him, and we'll see how it goes. But they're better with him than without him. And I do think you might see Teron Jackson still, but maybe not. We'll see. We'll see what they need to bring up. He's got both elevations remaining, all his elevations remaining, I reckon. So, but yeah, this is the guy who has the best chance of helping right away.
Yeah. So how do you think the rotation works? Like, we know Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith are the starters. How do the snaps get split up after that? Because we're talking about Jalix Hunt, who, played 24 snaps last week. The week before did not play at all. The week before that played 25. Can he give you 20 snaps a game?
I would think so. I would think he could. I think he might have to. It might not be ideal because he is still raw and he is still learning, but he's got a little juice to him, and he does show up when he's out there. He's active. So I think 20. I wouldn't want to go a whole lot higher than that, 23, 24, 25, but I think you can get that out of him.
And then how much Milton Williams do you expect?
Yeah, maybe.
Or Zach Bond. We kind of talked about those two possibilities on the last pod.
Yeah, a handful of snaps outside, 4 or 5. I don't know if it'll be much more than that. I don't think it's a solution, but it'll help. When you're trying to cobble together a game full of snaps. And I'm really curious to see what they do with Bond, because the way he's playing, you don't want to play with that. You don't want to risk losing what's made him so good, but he can do it, and he has done it. And something we'll ask Vic, I'm sure, later, or that we will have asked him already yesterday. Yeah. So maybe a little bit. I wouldn't think too much. And he does a little bit anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, they've done stuff where they kind of walk him up to the line, which I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of present that look, which they've done plenty of the season already.
Well, how much more do you think Nolan can play? He's at 44% of the snaps.
Yeah, a little bit more. He probably got up to like 50% of the snaps.
I would think.
Yeah.
Or even 55. Yeah.
Yeah. He's played well. I give Nolan credit. And the nice thing about Nolan is that, he hasn't been like a high-end pass rusher yet, but he's shown some good signs there. And you feel good about him on early downs. Even with his lack of size, he holds up well. He sets the edge. So you can have him out there all the time. It's amazing, though, how well Josh Sweat's played. We haven't really talked about Sweat that much. Gosh, what a big season he's having after the way last year ended, taking a pay cut. Like, the rest of the league told you what they thought of Josh Sweat, and he comes back, and not only is he earning himself some money, but he's proven he can still play.
Yeah, and not only last year, but the beginning of this year, first month, I think before the bye, I don't believe he had a sack. And I think he was up to 11 or 12 straight games without a sack, which is crazy. And he's just been really good. I think he has 7 sacks in 7 games since the bye. He looks like his old self.
Yeah, even aside from the pressure, like, he's playing really well against the run.
Yeah.
When Nick talks about this,
well, he always has.
He always has. Yeah. But like Nick talks about the physicality of this team, man, Josh Sweat embodies a lot of that.
Yeah. And he's always around the quarterback. He's always getting hurries and getting his hands on the quarterback. He's been making an impact in a lot of ways during this winning streak. And it's really interesting because, I mean, I didn't think, a month into the season, I'm thinking there's no way he's back. And now it's like they better bring him back, especially with BG. I don't think there's a realistic chance he'll be playing next year, when maybe a little while ago I did. And the way Bryce Huff played before he got hurt, there's a real urgency to bring Josh Sweat back now. So we'll see how that goes, but you can't lose him.
If you lose him, you better have a plan.
Yeah.
And even plans sometimes go awry with like Bryce Huff. You spent 3 years, $51 million, and he just hasn't lived up to that. And then you're like scaling him back, and then he gets hurt, which isn't his fault. But I am curious to see what he gives them when he comes back.
Yeah, and he should be back. I mean, they expect him back at some point. He'll be eligible for that second Washington game, which is Christmas week, I believe, the 22nd.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he was playing better. I think he had 2.5 sacks in his last 4 games before he got hurt, and a couple tackles for loss. So
he was getting some pressure even with the wrist. I know they were saying he couldn't play, but I don't know. It looked like he was getting more pressure after the injury.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. You never know how long it's going to take to heal and when they'll have him back. But if he's back in time for that Washington game, then you feel like you have another 25 reps that, per game that you can throw him in there. So really have to get through the next 3 games, you would think. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
With Charles Harris, I got a bunch of questions like, well, why would the Panthers release this guy? I asked around a little bit, and it was part of it is what I said earlier. He's kind of viewed as like a pass rush only kind of player, and also didn't give them a bunch on special teams. So he wasn't viewed as like a top end of the rotation guy, and he didn't help much on special teams. So they moved on from him. The Eagles are going to ask him to have a different role here.
Yeah, it is weird timing though. It doesn't cost you any more to keep him, and he was playing based on the stats, he was playing okay.
Yeah, but I think they needed the roster spot.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I think it was a cornerback who was coming back from IR. But it's the Panthers, and they're a team that's not going anywhere. So I would assume they want to see younger guys out there anyway.
Mm-hmm. And not a 29-year-old journeyman type.
Yeah.
Panthers, by the way, that game is looking a little tougher than it did a few weeks ago.
They play hard, and it's fun. I mean, there was a point where I thought they were going to beat the Chiefs. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it.
It was close.
Yeah. Part of that's the Chiefs just I mean, you can't argue with the record.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go too far off topic because the Eagles won't play them unless it's in the Super Bowl. But they just, I mean, I think we both have the Bills and Eagles ahead of them, right? And the Lions, obviously. Yeah, there's just something's just not right there offensively.
Mm-hmm.
There's just, but they find a way at the end.
And something tells me they're going to figure it out.
They usually do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cool thing for
another 10-win season for Andy Reid. I didn't even think of that. He's won 10 games, I think he's won 10 games all but 1 year in Kansas City, the first year, maybe. Mm-hmm. And then 8 years here? It's crazy.
Yeah. The Eagles don't have to get on a plane again.
You don't have to get on a plane again.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless you fly to Baltimore.
Yeah, I shouldn't say this. I did book a hotel room in Detroit in January, just in case.
Smart.
Yeah.
Where are you staying?
At the airport.
Airport Marriott. Been there many times.
Yeah. I actually booked the Westin at the airport. It's at the airport.
Oh, in the air.
Yeah.
Okay. Airport's far from downtown, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember spending Thanksgiving dinner in the Marriott at the Detroit airport. That's sitting at the bar. There's nobody there except me and a couple other writers watching the Cowboys get pummeled by somebody, the Thanksgiving night game after the Eagles had played the 1:00 game in Detroit. It's just something about being away from home covering a football game on Thanksgiving. It's just depressing. But I think you could very well be in Detroit for the NFC Championship game.
And that might be the next flight. I mean, because right now they don't have any more this season. They have 6 games left. 4 of them are at the link. The 2 road games, one is coming up in Baltimore. The other one is at Washington on the 22nd of December. I think that's a nice little boost for this team down the stretch after, starting the season in Brazil. You had some long trips this year.
And they've navigated that really, really well. I mean, when that schedule came out in April, it was imposing. It was so top heavy with road trips. And not only did they win most of them, they won by blowouts.
Mm-hmm.
They've become a really good road team. 23-9 under Nick on the road is really impressive. The Chiefs are 23-8, so that's the top 2 records in football since 21 on the road. But yeah, I think for the players and I know they travel, they don't have to worry about TSA, and they're traveling on a charter, but it's still it takes a lot out of you. Just a 4-hour flight, you get dehydrated, you're cramped in, even if you're in first class, if you're 6'5", 320, it's not the most comfortable place to be. So to know that, I think they still take the train to Washington, I believe. I could tell that story later in the year. But I do think mentally it's got to be, and just knowing you're going to be home for 4 of the last 6 games, that's huge. That's huge mentally for this team. I don't think anybody looks forward to flying to if you're on the football, they don't look forward to flying. They hate it. So that's a big mental thing. And the schedule really, to navigate through the first 11 games and get to 9-2 with all those road games, and Brazil's not technically a road game, but it's a road game. That's really impressive. And I think it speaks highly of Nick and his ability to get this team, physically and mentally ready to be away from home. And they've done that really well.
I love that Nick a few weeks ago talked about the Brazil trip, and he mentioned that he had some shows downloaded and some movies ready to watch, and then he just watched all the third down cut-ups of the Eagles over the last 3 years, which is a very football guy thing to do.
It is. And it doesn't surprise me. What did you do on the flight?
I think I watched the movie and then I tried to sleep. I was flying at a different time. They were trying to stay awake on the flight.
Yeah.
I was trying to sleep because I had a red eye both ways. Yeah. Popped a melatonin and tried to conk out a little bit. Let's get into the matchups.
Yeah.
This is a big game, so we want to spend some time on these matchups. I think when you talk about the Ravens, it starts with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. 2 of the better players in the league, 2 of the guys who are in MVP contention this year. They're really good rushing offense. Lamar's been great throwing the ball, but you still have to account for his legs. And he makes it tough. Like having a running back like Derrick Henry and then the threat of Lamar Jackson taking off too, it makes things really tough.
Yeah. And, he's always been a good passer. Even that first year in 19, I think he was MVP. That was his first MVP. He had 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So he's always had that. But I think he's become even better this year. He's accurate. His ability to keep the play alive and throw accurately on the move across his body, he makes impossible throws look easy. 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions this year, while completing 67% of his passes and averaging over 10 yards per that's adjusted yards per attempt, but he's leading the league in yards per attempt and yards. 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's a dangerous guy. I still think he's in the MVP mix. Probably Josh Allen. I don't know who's the favorite. Is it Josh Allen?
It's Josh Allen, yeah.
And
then depending where you look, it's either Saquon or Lamar.
Yeah, and those are the guys. You would say Lamar, Goff, Josh Allen, and then these 2 running backs, probably your candidates. So, you're going to have a lot of that conversation. I'm sure is going to be big in Baltimore on Sunday. I've always been a Lamar Jackson fan. He's a winner. He's only lost 23 games in his career. It's kind of crazy. It's a fun matchup. This defense has been so good, especially in pass defense. He's going to make some plays. and they haven't been challenged like this. Stafford, I think, is still a really good passer, and they did a really good job against him. But this guy has it all. I mean, he can beat you in so many different ways, and he doesn't turn the ball over. So definitely a challenge for this defense.
Yeah, and the difference with his offense is that they can beat you two ways, whereas like the Rams are, they try to run the ball, but there's not a very good running offense. Whereas
ran the ball well first two drives, but
but they're not a very good running team in general. I
Right.
mean, this is Derrick Henry. This is, he's been so good after contact, which is what you expect from a guy who's like 245 pounds and runs as fast as he does. But give the Eagles a lot of credit because they had so many missed tackle issues early in the season. They're down to 24th in the league in missed tackles, which is pretty impressive when you think about where they were to start this year.
Yeah. I mean, like after the Tampa game, they were probably first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing. It's really, when they have one, it kind of sticks out because it's so rare lately. They might have one or two a game. But Derrick Henry's a guy that, I mean, you got to get numbers to the ball. I mean, you think you have him wrapped up, and he just keeps moving those legs. He'll get like 4 yards when you think you have him wrapped up.
Yeah, you got to gang tackle.
You have to. He's and for him, it's funny because Saquon and Derrick Henry are so similar in that after last year, there was like, what do they have left? Where are they going to go? Can they still play at a high level? There were questions about both of them, and they both just answered them resoundingly.
Yeah, and it's a little bit different of a running attack. They use a fullback quite a bit, lead blocker, so it's a little more ground and pound type stuff. But the cool thing about Derrick Henry is he's been so good outside the tackle. Like he's speedy, he's really fast. He's not like you see him and you think, oh, there's just some big bruising back, but like no, he rumbles. Like you look at some of his miles per hour, he's up there with Saquon. He's really fast and really big.
Yeah. That's a surprising thing about him.
And then with Lamar, like, yes, he's passing the ball great. He is still a threat to run. He has almost 600 yards rushing this year.
Well, 599.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're both. He's averaging 5.8 per carry, and Derrick Henry's averaging 6.0 per carry. So I think everybody in the league averaging 5.8 or higher is going to be in this game.
Might be true.
Yeah. So,
and it's really funny after facing Matthew Stafford last week, who does not move. He had a 15-yard scramble, and it was like the most amazing thing we've ever seen last week. He just doesn't leave that pocket. Lamar Jackson's a little different. You got to keep some eyes on him.
Yeah, no doubt. And he knows when to run and when to throw. I mean, he doesn't make mistakes in his decision making in the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like he is, even if he was not able to move, if he was not able to run, he would still be a good quarterback. Like he is really good inside the pocket, and it took a long time for him to get that credit because there's like this stigma with quote unquote running quarterbacks. But I mean, if he wasn't able to leave the pocket, he'd still be a really good player.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Hall of Famer. I mean, he's only 27.
I think he will be eventually. I don't know if he retired today. I mean, maybe he has the two MVPs.
Hasn't been good. Hasn't been very good in the postseason. So that's big.
The Eagles helped the Ravens get him.
Yeah.
It was the Dallas Goedert trade out of 32.
That's right.
After the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 18, they traded back, and then they eventually traded up to get Goedert. But they traded out of the first round so the Ravens could get Lamar Jackson. That's a trade that worked out for both sides.
It did. Yeah.
Okay. The last matchup I have when the Eagles are on defense is Roger Rosengarten, who we talked about in the pre-draft process. He was a target that we listed for the Eagles in the second round, and it might have made sense if they hadn't been able to trade up and get Cooper DeJean. The thing about Rosengarten was like we knew he was raw. We knew it would take some time, but he's playing, and he's playing right tackle, and he's giving up some pressure. So if there's a weak spot on that line, it's probably him at right tackle.
Yeah. Jackson doesn't take many sacks. I mean, you'll think you have him and you don't. You think you're going to get him, but you won't. Isn't that from the Buddies Watching You video? You probably don't remember that.
I mean, I know the buddies watching video.
Yeah,
but
there's. I think Randall's like,
I was like,
you think you have me, but you don't. You think you're going to get me, but you won't. There's some line like that. But yeah, I mean, they have a good line, and he might be the weak link on it.
Yeah, so it's like Nolan Smith over there, at least to start the game, and we'll see what they do with this kind of new look rotation after, if they'll flip sides a little bit. I might try to get Sweat over there. I know he's predominantly faced left tackles, but he's your best pass rusher. And if you have a chance to get him an advantageous matchup, I think you have to start doing that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they do some of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's the one thing I'm keeping an eye on the line. And then flipping over, this is a pretty good run defense from Baltimore. And it creates, last week you could say that about the Rams a little bit, that their run defense was better than their pass defense, but you could still run the ball on them and you felt really confident. This Ravens run defense is much better than its pass defense. It's one of the best run defenses in the league, one of the worst passing defenses.
Yeah.
So it's like, what gives here? The Eagles have been so good at sticking with the run. It's been their identity since the bye week. Do you think they'll just stick with it and see if they can run and just try to do it until they can't?
It's a great question. Might mix it up a little more early. Take some shots early, throwing it, and then get back to the run once you soften them up. But they're gonna try to run it. I think they feel like they can run it against anyone,
and they should. I mean, we're talking about how good the Ravens' run defense is. There's no better running offense in the NFL than the Eagles.
Yeah, better than Ravens even
a
little bit. But yeah, I just think what we've seen from Kellen Moore is that he's going to try to do it against everyone, and I don't blame him. I would.
Yeah, it's working pretty well.
And then you know what? If it's not working, you feel pretty confident about. I would think Devontae would be back. We don't know, but you like some of the matchups that they have throwing the ball. But he's always going to go back to running it. I mean, it's not like he's going to give it up if the first few carries don't go well. He'll mix it up, he'll throw it, but he'll keep going back to Saquon. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah, Ravens have been really good getting running backs to the ground, just 2.6 yards after contact this season. That is tops in the NFL. So it's something that Saquon's been very good at. He's been good at everything before and after contact. Yeah. But it was one of the big reasons they got Barkley, was that they thought he could kind of get all the meat off the bone and run through some tacklers. He's been able to do that. Something's got to give in this game.
Yeah, and that, I mean, Saquon and Derrick Henry don't face each other, but I mean, and they're friends. They respect each other. They tweet to each other, which is really cool. But that they each want to make a case that they're the best running back in the league. So that's kind of an added little dimension here.
I saw an interview with Derrick Henry where he's basically like, Saquon, slow down, man. What are you doing? Very funny. You can pass the ball on the Ravens. They give up a ton of big plays, and that's obviously something the Eagles have been very good at this season. I think A.J. Brown is going to have some really advantageous matchups, and they can kind of dictate them. Marlon Humphrey will play inside and outside. He's really good, but he's their best corner, and everyone else after that, you can complete passes on.
Yeah, and that's why I think Kellen will throw it, and it might be the most pass attempts Jalen has since before the bye. I think the Tampa game, they were playing from behind. He might throw it 30 times, which I don't think they've done in quite a while. So I think you're gonna have to make plays in the air.
Yeah, another rookie we talked about, Rosengarten on offense, Nate Wiggins on defense. It was a player we talked about so much because we knew the Eagles were looking for a cornerback. I think they nailed their pick. But Wiggins was the third corner off the board after Quinyon Mitchell and Terrion Arnold. Undersized corner, but really sticky in coverage. If you can get A.J. Brown on him, I think he can bully him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm trying to remember who wrote the pre-write on Nate Wiggins.
I think I did. I think I had all the corners.
Okay, is that no? Because I had.
Oh no,
I had Quinyon.
Oh, then you had all the corners.
Yeah. I had everyone they drafted. Yeah, I think, and AJ's quietly. I mean, he missed 3 games, but quietly having a really good year. He'll have, what's he got? 700 68 yards or something.
Yeah, he had the quietest 109 yards ever last week.
Yeah, it was like the last minute of our post-game show. I was like, AJ had 109 yards. We didn't even mention his name on the show. A lot of big plays, so.
Yeah, just chunks after chunks after chunks.
Yeah. And he's just playing like he's playing. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think he's playing like I know I'm not getting the ball again, so I gotta like just run people over and get every yard I can here. He's not getting the targets he wants, I'm sure, but it's working.
Mm-hmm. The Ravens went out and got Tre'Davious White at the deadline. He's not what he used to be.
No, he's not.
But it kind of tells you what they thought about their pass defense. That they were like,
He was a great player.
Yeah, the injuries just took a toll on him.
Yeah.
I was a big Tre'Davious White fan. That was actually the 17 draft too.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was the guy I wanted the Eagles to draft. I really liked him in that draft class. He ended up being a good player for a while.
Yeah,
it's a shame injuries sometimes in this league just
drag you down. Cumulative effect.
Mm-hmm. And the last one, this Ravens pass rush is interesting. They get a ton of sacks, but their pressure numbers overall are not great. So it tells you that they're like really finishing.
Interesting.
Yeah. They have Kyle Van Noy on one side, Adafi Owe on the other. Owe's been coming on really strong. I was looking up his pressure numbers. 19 pressures in his last 3 games. He had 17 in his first 9.
Interesting.
Yeah. He's been really good. You'll have him mostly against Jordan Mailata and Van Noy against Lane Johnson. And then Nnamdi Madubuike, formerly Justin Madubuike, really good interior defensive lineman.
Why wouldn't you want to change your name to Nnamdi?
Really good interior. Probably one of the better defensive tackles in the league. Doesn't get talked about quite enough.
Yeah, he's good, and he'll pressure you from the inside. What if Cooper DeJean decided he was changing his name to Nnamdi?
Well, I don't think he really changed his name to Nnamdi. I think it was his name, and he had been going by Justin.
Okay.
So he like went back to his like birth name, I believe.
The old player to be named later. And Lane and Mailata are playing. They're playing so well.
Yeah, Jordan, since coming back from the injury, has been incredible.
Yeah.
And it's you give Fred Johnson all the credit in the world. He stepped in, had some tough duty. They do not help their tackles, even when their backups are in. And sometimes it hurts them. I think they really ought to help them more when they bring in a backup. But it just lets this offense operate at such a high level.
Right.
I saw there was one of those dot charts with it was offensive tackles on an island with success rate as the other axis. And it's just Jordan and Lane at the top right.
Yeah. Because
they are just so good and they don't get help ever.
They don't need it.
It's such a luxury to have.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole offense is predicated on that. It just frees you up in so many other ways when you don't have to put other bodies in there to help.
So I guess Lane is now the only player on the roster on the 53 who was here before Doug Peterson. That's crazy. It's crazy how fast time moves in the NFL.
That's a long time ago.
I know.
So it's 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
That's a long time in the NFL.
Yeah. But we're so used to having,
yeah,
Kelsey and Fletch and BG.
Well, Kelsey's still in the building every day. So.
Man, that guy, he's everywhere. I think there's like 8 Jason Kelce's.
Might be.
Like wherever you look, there's a Jason Kelce.
Yeah.
And now the family's going to have 2 podcasts that do better than ours.
I know. It's bad enough that Jason kills us. And now Kylie's going to kill us.
In a few years, his kids will have podcasts.
Hey, he keeps having more kids. They're going to be, 4 more podcasts coming.
They'll each have a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the one that hasn't been born yet, it might be a while before.
I don't know.
15, 16
kids are
years.
advanced nowadays.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a little break. We have a ton of questions to get to on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. All All right, we're back on the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. Question time. We have a lot of them. Eagle Eye at NBC Uni. That's NBCUNI.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you have the QR code. You can scan that and send a question right from your cellular device. Let's get into it, Rube. First question is from Spencer. Hey, guys.
Right over there.
Thank you for everything you do. You've become a big part of my routine, even during the off season. I listen to your podcast as soon as it drops. Question about Vic Fangio. It's pretty well recognized that if he had been available last year, he would have been the Eagles DC. I'm starting to believe that in the long run, it was better that he wasn't here. I wonder if the collapse on defense last year forced the Eagles to invest more draft capital in the defense, and that maybe we don't have Mitchell and DeJean if Fangio was able to get anything out of the defense last year. Do you guys agree? And do you think Vic wouldn't have been able to get significantly more out of the defense with all its holes last year? I like these questions. This is definitely a butterfly effect type of question.
Yeah, and how would Chip Kelly answer? He'd say, I don't deal in hypotheticals. It's an interesting theory. There's probably something to it. But with the personnel they had on defense last year, I'm not sure even Vic would have been able to salvage. He might have gotten fired after the season. I don't know.
It is fascinating, though, because we've done so much blaming, and the Eagles did too, of Jonathan Gannon for the way he exited. But I don't know. If Vic would have been here, I think they would have been better last year.
Yeah.
And if they were better, I don't know if there's a massive overhaul of the talent.
I think there would have been.
Would he still be here?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's interesting to think about. It you can make a case. I just think with the personnel they had on defense last year, you could have had, Bud Carson or, who the best defensive coordinator, Jim Johnson, Marion Campbell, and it wouldn't have mattered. They would have been bad.
Bill Belichick.
Well, I was thinking Eagles defensive coordinators.
Oh, okay.
But
all right.
they've had some really good ones. Marion Campbell, people think, because he was a terrible head coach, but when he was Vermeil's DC, they were number one in the league back-to-back years, 80 and 81. So last time that happened.
Where's Vic end up in the ranking?
He's getting there. He's going to be, we'll see how long he stays here. I don't know how long he wants to coach. But this defense is going to be good for the foreseeable future.
Can you see the future?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see the future when you have this kind of talent on defense. So yeah, I think he'll be in that conversation.
I don't know if it was an email or a tweet. So I can't even give credit for it, but I saw a theory that the Eagles defense got better once the Phillies were knocked out of the playoffs. Wondering if Vic had a little more free time to figure out this defense.
I saw that somewhere. Yeah, it's a little bit of a reach, but
it's funny.
I think it had more to do with when Cooper DeJean started playing.
Yeah, probably. Next question is from Eric. Since this is an Eagles podcast and not a music podcast, I also have a question for you about Saquon, who is quickly becoming my favorite Philadelphia athlete. The Giants and Cowboys have both been criticized for not wanting to pay Saquon and Derrick Henry respectively, since the two running backs are being credited for reestablishing the importance of the run game in today's NFL. Personally, I wouldn't criticize either team because neither has the O-line to dominate the line of scrimmage for them and will be wasting their talents. Cowboys have been a pass-first team under Dak, and the Giants just stink. Love to see our division rivals get raked over the coals for their incompetence, but I think ultimately not paying those guys was the right choice, even if it looks bad. What are your thoughts on the whole situation?
Well, I think the Giants had a much better chance of re-signing Saquon than the Cowboys did. The Cowboys didn't really have the cap space for Derrick Henry. For what it sounds like, the Giants could have signed Saquon. They just they're like, let's go out there and see what teams are offering and come back to us. Well, why would you? But I think as far as the O-lines, both these guys are in great situations. Neither one of them would have been as good with the Giants or the Cowboys.
I think it would be foolish to think that Saquon will be having this season in New York.
Yeah.
I think where the Giants screwed up was not necessarily this offseason. it wasn't good and it played out on national TV. That was bad. I think they really screwed up when they franchise tagged him and paid Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
And like that was the mistake.
Have you taken a look at their dead money with Daniel Jones? I haven't had a chance, but
no, but
it's not
there
too
was
bad.
it wasn't like what that deal was reported. They reported as like 4 years, 160 or something, but it wasn't that. It was really a 2-year deal.
Wonder where he ends up.
I don't know. If I'm the 49ers, I'm making that call yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know how bad Brock Purdy's hurt, but yeah, certainly would be on my radar.
Mm-hmm. Next question is from Thomas. Hey guys, what are your thoughts on extending Mekhi Becton or Zach Bond? If you had to list them in order of preference, which would be first? For a while now, I've been thinking they would let Becton go since they have a younger, cheaper version with Steen. However, after watching the coaches tape from the last 2 games, it's hard to imagine. He is throwing people around out there and seems to have found a happy place here in Philly. Would love to hear your thoughts. P.S. Rube, have you had a chance to listen to the new Hippocampus album, Flood? It's my favorite of the year so far.
It's really good. Yeah, it's a really good record. Sounds nothing like their last couple records. And Hippocampus is a band from Minneapolis. Was my daughter's favorite band for quite a while. And we drove all over to see them. She got to know them a little bit. Really nice kids. We drove to Albany to see them, out to Pittsburgh. And whenever they played here, usually union transfer. They're just a really good, really solid band. You'd probably like them. I think you'd like Hippocampus.
I've listened to a little bit.
Oh yeah,
solid.
Yeah, they're good. But the new album, I think, is the best thing they've done. And yeah, it's in my top. I had to submit my top 25 to Magnet Magazine by last night, and they're my top 25.
Okay, good.
You know, in the next couple of weeks, I'll just give my top 100 of the year on the podcast.
Okay,
you can just leave the room for a while.
I would love that. We'll let you do it right after we stop recording.
Getting a question about Hippocampus was not on my bingo card for today's podcast.
The actual question,
yes,
Mekhi Becton, Zach Bond. Yeah, I think both of them are in play for extensions for sure.
Yeah, who would you say is more important? It's not as obvious an answer as you might think.
It is not. I think I have the unpopular opinion that it's Mekhi Becton.
It might be.
Just because of how important the offensive line is. And like, I like Tyler Steen, but man, I think they have something special with this group right now.
Yeah.
So I might lean Mekhi Becton. Now, he's going to cost more than Zach Bond just by the nature of the position. But I could be swayed either way. I think some people are going to listen. I think the popular opinion would probably be Zach Bond.
Yeah, and you can make a case
for either.
Becton's younger. I mean, he's 2 years younger. I mean, he's 25.
Yeah, but Bond also doesn't have a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah. They do have a serviceable alternative to Becton and Steen, who isn't as good as Becton, but he's functional.
Well, the other thing I'm thinking is you have to pay Nakobe Dean soon.
Yeah,
he's entering year 4 next year, so he's going to be eligible for an extension. Are they going to pay both of them?
Yeah, they've never paid one linebacker. What are the odds they're going to pay 2? There's not much else at that position.
Yeah. Apparently, as we're doing this, we're recording this on Wednesday. Daniel Jones going to the Vikings.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Which one do you think is more likely? Not which one would you do in terms of Bond or Becton?
I think Becton's more likely.
Okay.
But they both, I think this is important. They both love it here. They both love being a part of this. They were both I don't think Zach Bond was unhappy in New Orleans, but they're both, I think they both are guys that have been looking to fit in for all their careers and finally do. And I think that's valuable. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Zach Bond has talked glowingly about just being here and fitting in.
And so is Mekhi.
And Mekhi, I mean, Mekhi after the game on Sunday, tweeting out about how much fun he's having. Football's finally fun again.
I talked to Mekhi, I think 2 weeks ago, and he said, I said, what do you like about being here? He said, finally having a coach that believes in me.
Yeah.
So that's valuable stuff.
Mm-hmm. Next question from Scott. This was from before the game. Looking forward to the Birds taking over SoFi on Sunday Night Football. Other than Lambeau, what are your top 3 stadiums, not cities, to visit?
Top, and Lambeau is fun. I think Seattle's my favorite stadium.
It's a good one.
It's a really, really nice one. I like Baltimore. I haven't been to these in quite a while, so it's hard to remember. But as far as just the actual stadium is the question, I haven't been to SoFi.
I really do like SoFi.
Yeah,
they did a nice job.
Yeah, I like the soccer stadium in San Diego. I would go Seattle, Baltimore, and I mean, LA Coliseum was kind of cool just because of all the history, the Olympics and everything. They had all the historical stuff out front, but the stadium itself is a dump.
Yeah, it really is.
I think our press box was actually a trailer, right? Up halfway up the stands, and we had to go through the stands to get down to the locker room that we weren't allowed in.
Yeah.
So certainly wouldn't put that up there. What are yours?
I really like SoFi. I do like Seattle. I like US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. I thought they did a nice job there as far as like the new stadiums.
As a rule, I don't like domes, but I do like that one.
Yeah, they did a nice job because like there are a bunch of them that are like very similar. Like AT&T was kind of the beginning of it.
Yeah.
AT&T and then the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. I don't like those as much as US Bank and SoFi. Yeah,
US Bank is a pretty cool place. I do like AT&T just because it's so absurd. It's so over the top.
Yeah. You know what actually holds up? Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah.
In Tampa.
Yeah.
It's still a good spot.
I like the pirate ship in the end zone.
Pirate ship is cool. Although those damn cannons, man, they go off in every single live hit I've ever done down there. I jump every time.
Clarkie, they get Clarkie a little bit, right?
Yeah, Clarkie leaves the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, Clarkie, he don't like no cannons.
Yeah. All right. Next question from Doran. Hi, Dave and Rube. Love the pod and never miss an episode. I live in LA and was at the game. Eagles fans outnumbered Rams fans. You can say that the Eagles travel well or there are a lot of Philly transplants in Los Angeles like me, but many of the people sitting around me were born and raised in LA, but just love the Eagles. What is it about the aura of this franchise that seems to make it so attractive nationally? Is this the real America's team? Also, a gentle criticism. Enough with the Matt Patricia bashing. Yes, he was bad, but so was the entire team at the end of last year. Let's move on.
No, not going to happen. It's just some things they're kind of hallmarks of our podcast. But as far, I think I just asked you this, like, I don't know, in the last couple of weeks, like, why do they travel so well? And I have a theory about it. It's like, how many current NFL teams have had the same name in the same city as long as the Eagles, 1933? I mean, the Bears, Packers, there's not many. I just think so many Eagles fans have had Eagles fandom passed down from their grandfather to their father, mother. It's just like a generational thing. It's been part of their families for so long that there's a level of obsessiveness that you can't get if you're a Jaguars fan or a Seahawks fan or a team that, has moved. I mean, the Rams have been there they were there, then they started out in Cleveland. I think the Rams started out in Cleveland, and I don't think that's affecting their attendance now. But the point is, I just think when you have that level of, generations of fandom, it makes people more obsessive and they want to be a part of it. I've met people that schedule that's like some people go to the Shore. We go to Green Bay or Tampa or wherever the game is, and Denver. It's just ingrained in them to a level that I think a lot of fan bases just can't have that. I mean, the Arizona Cards, like, everybody in Arizona is from Chicago. I mean, there's more Bears fans in Arizona than Cards fans. So you're not going to have Cards fans traveling somewhere to see a game because you just don't have that level of, and plus in some of those, like the southern cities, west, the warm weather, other things are bigger. I mean, college football maybe. So I just think it's a unique combination of things that make this fan base more rabid than any other.
But why do you think it's in other cities? That explains it here.
I mean, why that there's fans of this team in other cities? Yeah. Well, I think most of them are. I mean, you've been on the flights. I think most of the fans at these games are coming from here.
He was saying there, like, a lot of the people around him were born and raised in LA.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I don't know how you measure that. I mean, I think
they've been good.
They've been good.
They've been good for a long time, and they've had exciting, fun players.
Yeah, yeah. I still think most of it is fans that travel more than. I'm sure there's fans of every team in every city, but I don't know if this is more. I just don't know.
Okay.
I mean, jersey sales is one thing that would tell you the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
Regional jersey sales. So we'll get Finer to get us those numbers.
Dear David and Rube, I've heard from some friends of mine that you're big fans of my work. When I'm not sifting through piles of job offers I've received, I always like to reach out to fans like you and show my thanks. I'm nothing if not humble. Fly Eagles fly. Your friend, head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia.
Oh, that was nice of him to check in.
Next
Got a lot
question
of free time. He's not coaching.
from Annette. David and Reuben, I was thinking about the immediate impact Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore have had for the Eagles in 2024. It also got me thinking about Jeff Stoutland's legacy as offensive line coach for the Birds. Going back to 1980, who would you say would be the top 5 coordinators / assistant coaches the Eagles have had on their staff?
Well, we're going to see one of them Sunday, Harbs, Jim Johnson, John Harbaugh, Stout certainly in that. I think I did the top 10 Eagles assistant coaches of all time during COVID.
Yeah.
I think I did a list. I mean, Andy's staff was loaded with them, certainly with top guys. I would put, you
did it in 2020, and it was not in any order. And here's what you had. Some of these are before, really before 1980. Marion Campbell, Bud Carson, Juan Castillo, who was a really good offensive line coach, obviously before becoming defensive coordinator. Sid Gilman, way back in the day.
Jaws quarterbacks coach.
John Harbaugh, Jim Johnson. We had Frank Reich on here.
Okay.
Deuce Staley and Jeff Stoutland. Yeah.
That's a good list. Bud Carson's got to be on there. Yeah. Dale Haupt was a great position coach. He was Eagles D-line coach when Reggie was here and Clyde Simmons. I'd certainly put him on that list too.
Okay, non-Jeff Stoutland. Okay. Which assistant coach on the team right now has the best chance to end up on that list?
Oh, TJ Paganetti. Clearly.
Been here so long.
I don't know. I think the world of Jamel Singleton. I mean, he's had 3 Pro Bowl running backs in the last 3 years. How many guys do that? I think he's been great for Saquon. I think he's a hell of a technician with he's running backs coach. I'd put him on there. Yeah, there's been a lot of turnover on the staff. Last year. Kellen Moore, if we don't know,
I think if he's that good, he's not going to be here.
Right. But he might not interview well, the fact that he hasn't. So we'll see. But I mean,
this is where I remind you that Pat Shurmur is a 2-time NFL head coach. So
yeah, that's fair. Well, how would you answer that other than Stoutland?
Maybe Christian Parker. Really young, but could be an heir apparent to Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
At a certain point. So I think maybe he has a staying power to be really good.
Clint Hurt's really good. Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
Michael Clay. Heck.
Yeah, he's pretty good right there.
He's bounced back there.
Douglas. Nick Sirianni mentioned when asked about what went wrong last year that stamina and conditioning were an issue. Does the focus on conditioning explain their second half dominance in games of late? Also, does Bryce Brown ruin any Saquon Barkley stats?
He does. He was in my stats piece this week. I mean,
we can't escape Bryce Brown.
Back-to-back most rushing yards. I think Saquon actually broke the record for most rushing yards in a 2-game span. I think it was exactly 400. He had 145 and 255, but he broke Bryce Brown's record.
And just got to make you feel good to get Bryce Brown out of there for future.
Yeah, but there's still other records that he has that just will always haunt me.
Well, what about the actual question?
I forgot it.
Conditioning in the second half performance.
Yeah, I think there's something there. I think they're a really fit team, and training camp practices were longer. That might have something to do with it. I think a lot of the people that were involved in last year were just really committed to making sure it didn't happen again, and really took conditioning seriously. I think that has a lot to do with, the O-line in particular. They're able to dominate late in games, which it's hard to do.
And Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Seeing how much he's played, I think it was 114 straight snaps he played.
He didn't play that last series.
Yeah, they took him out.
Yeah.
But
and Jordan Davis, too. He's the best shape he's been in, but Jalen Carter is showing up.
He's playing 15 snaps a game.
Yeah. But I just think the whole team is in good shape. I think that's a fair point.
Jake, hey, Dave and Rube, listen to the most eagle-eyed podcast during the Philly Marathon on Sunday. Thank you guys for keeping me going.
Oh, wow.
My question is about playoff seeding.
Did he put his time in?
He did not. With Washington fading, it looks like we're comfortably in position for the division, and the NFC South and NFC West leaders are both 3 games behind. If by the end of the year we can't catch the 1 seed and are locked into the 2, do you worry that we may rest guys a little too early and get rusty?
Yeah, I don't believe in that rusty thing. That was a big question in 2004 because they didn't play the starters the last 2 games and they had a bye. So the starters hadn't played in a month and they just rolled over people. I think the rest is more important than maybe for a series you're a little – I just don't buy it. I don't believe in rust.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's been disproven.
You'll like this. Speaking about running, I had 2 friends this past weekend who ran the Batona Trail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Back to nature. I always thought that was like a Native American word.
What?
Batona.
Oh.
It's just short for back to nature.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. BATONA.
Oh. Yeah. Like 52 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're both hurting still.
Yeah. So it starts, what does it go, like Medford, then through the Pine Barrens?
It's all in the Pine Barrens. Yeah. They're running they think they started at midnight on Saturday and
Really?
Nightmare. And it's funny because they're obviously proud of their accomplishment. And the first thing everyone says when I tell them is why.
No, I like that. I admire that.
Yeah.
Were they runners like in high school or?
No, neither of them really runners, but they trained a little bit and wanted to do it.
How long did it take them?
I think like 20 hours. With stopping, I think. I don't know. Yeah.
They stopped at the Courtyard Marriott.
I think I don't know exactly how they did. I haven't gotten the details.
Okay.
But they told me the last 13 miles were rough.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Well, they used to have an ultra marathon at Cooper River Park I guess it's in, what is that? Partly in Haddon Township and partly in Pennsauken, maybe.
Yeah.
But there was a track there, and I think there still is a track there. And they had a 7-day race. It was how many miles? And guys would have tents in the infield, and you'd run for like 20 hours and sleep for 2 hours, and they'd get like 20 competitors from around the world who would do this 7-day run. How boring would it be running like around a track? It's like one thing to do a trail. At least you're on a trail. There's trees. You're running in Pennsauken.
I don't know how you have
days.
enough focus to not just fall. Like if you're doing it that long.
I'm sure people do fall.
Yeah.
But it was, I actually covered it one year. I mean, I wasn't there for the whole thing, but a guy from Glassboro won it a few years, Sid Holzer. And so I would go and do stories on it when I was at the old Gloucester County Times, which no longer exists, sadly. But that's cool.
All right. If you have a question for us, it's eagle-eyed@nbcuni.com. Rube, big game on Sunday. We're recording this earlier in the week, so we probably haven't had a real chance to formulate a bunch of thoughts in terms of predictions, but do you know which way you're leaning on this one?
Well, I think I said Rams last week at this point, and I picked the Eagles.
Yeah.
I'm leaning Ravens. I just don't think the Eagles are going to win every game.
That's kind of where I am. Like, I think they have 6 games left. I don't think they're going to win out. So I got to find a loss.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think it's going to be Carolina. I don't think it's I don't see the other loss.
And, Pittsburgh's good, but they don't score many points.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a winnable game. The rematches in the division that they have coming up. What's the toughest one out of the group? I guess Washington.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but this is
they've certainly come back a little bit.
I think this is a very tough game. If they win this game,
they could win out.
They could win out.
Yeah,
which would give them the longest winning streak in franchise history. So tough game. I'm leaning Ravens right now. But I'm about 50-50. I'm close. I think it's a really fun game. I wish I could just like sit on the couch and watch it and just enjoy it. But it's going to be a good one. And if they do lose, look, it's an AFC team.
The Rams game was way more important.
Way more important. And wouldn't surprise me either way, but probably going to pick the Ravens.
I think I'm with you on that.
Okay.
All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Thankful for all you guys at home listening.
Very much.
In your cars on the way to turkey dinner. Enjoy it.
Running the marathon.
Yeah, whatever you're doing while you're listening, we are really appreciative. Thank you for Rube. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. Enjoy the game on Sunday. We'll talk to you after.